So finally, we're going to have a bit of a look at Scrum pitfalls and tools. So basically how to avoid some of the obvious failures. I've mentioned some as we've gone through the course, but I will now cover this off in a little bit more detail. So there is a learning curve with Agile, as with many other things, and this is broadly defined as this little diagram kind of makes out. So people start off and they're very enthusiastic, it looks like fun, then they realise it's maybe not what they expected, it's harder than they thought, they don't really feel secure, they don't quite know what they're doing, but they keep on going. Then they feel like they're starting to learn it, that they're having some success, but then they have some failures and that knocks their confidence and they feel like, okay, they don't really know what they're doing. And then finally you see an upward curve where things actually start to make sense and they feel like they've achieved something in the end. So broadly, this process is called forming, storming, norming and performing. And forming means when you're trying to get to know your team, get to know your work and sort of finding out your position in this new framework. Storming really happens when people try to think as a kind of individual. They try to snap back into an old way of working perhaps, and essentially that creates a type of conflict. So you've gone from a value system of the individual, of a hierarchy, and you're going to a very flat structure. So of course you will get people who try to dominate and try to lead, and the whole point of Agile and the whole point really of Scrum is to have contributions equally across the team. So once the team has learnt to sort of collaborate and learnt that they will generate more success by that approach, that's what we call norming. So they've started to combine their skills and begin to work as a unit. And it's only that practice with them working as a team in a collaborative way over time that leads them to start to perform. So the cultural change really is one of a command and control, a very sort of top-down hierarchical approach to one of self-organisation and team working. So this idea that you've gone from a situation where leaders know best, they are controlling others' actions and behaviour, change plans that denotes a failure. Leaders can control and influence the changing environment. So it's that sort of strict hierarchy which keeps that maintained. Whereas in an agile environment, you have a very collaborative structure. So everyone has equal value and input. We make decisions together. Change is a part of the process every day. And you're really starting to ask a question, what did we learn from this and how can we apply that as a group in order to improve and achieve our goals? So some common pitfalls, some additional ones at least. I've mentioned some previously as well. Typical one is viewing the Scrum Master as a project manager. The Scrum Master is not a project manager. So they are there to facilitate. They are not there for reporting or hierarchical top-down control. Excessive preparation and planning. So regular big upfront planning sessions, that is not really necessary with Scrum. So you shouldn't really be going into spectacular levels of detail and design and solutioning right at the very get-go. That means you have fallen into a waterfall methodology approach. Problem solving in the daily Scrum. So the daily Scrum should not be used to find solutions to problems. So you shouldn't be going into very detailed conversations about specific solutioning requirements. Those are the sort of conversations that you take offline with your individual team members. Not getting done. So you hold a demo in the sprint review and you find that you actually are not in a position to actually ship that to a customer. So making sure you don't overcommit is absolutely critical to being successful there. The product owner doesn't show. So often the product owner is a very pressurized role, but they are a full member of the team and should be present really at all the Scrum meetings, so planning, review and daily Scrums. So Don't let your product owner skip those meetings. Stretch goals. This is also a very common one, and usually under pressure from someone on the business stakeholding side. So no one should bring pressure on the team to overcommit. That has an inverse relationship to actually delivering good quality work. Demonstration isn't ready, so sometimes a team forgets that it will take time to prepare a demo. So these activities should really be part of the tasks in the sprint backlog. There are many more that I could mention on this list, but these are just a few sample pitfalls. I recommend to review these as a team and think about how this might be reflected in your own process and your own learning as well. So my top tips really to be successful with this methodology and with Agile methodologies in general. So especially if you are new to Agile and you are new to Scrum, I can thoroughly recommend that you stick to the method as it was designed. It was designed that way for a reason. I think mature teams can have some flexibility once they've really got to an optimal point of productivity and efficiency, and the team members really know the methodology very well. I think immature teams, I would definitely advise against that. I would really stick to the discipline, because it's the discipline which allows you to have the mechanisms in order to ensure good quality, timely deliveries. This might seem basic, but make sure you book the resources. Without resources, no work is actually going to be delivered. So regardless of it being a flat structure, regardless of it being a fixed resource-based model, this is such an obvious thing and people don't think to do it. If you don't have people available for the work, you're not going to deliver very much product. Keeping the discipline. So this is really critical for any kind of delivery, but this is also really attached to sticking to the method. That discipline and making sure you stick to those time boxes and really keep the team motivated in that way is really critical to being successful. Just because it's Agile doesn't mean you can throw away detailed documentation. So the formats that I've demonstrated with the user stories, with the acceptance criteria, with the definition of done are really important, and there's no reason why not to add in quite a lot of detail when you are documenting and writing those requirements sets. So we're briefly going to touch on tools and just some of the key ones that you really need to be aware of. And I've made a bit of a list of tools and other resources which you can check out in the course resource section. So one you absolutely can't avoid, and one I've mentioned previously, is Jira. Virtually all enterprise teams use Jira. Virtually all software companies use Jira. It is the requirements management toolkit for Agile teams, so do get familiar with it. It's also a very flexible piece of software, and it's possible to create high levels of tailoring for your teams and your requirements. So I thoroughly recommend checking this one out and bothering to sit down and spend some time actually trying to learn how to use it. Other possible toolkits and productivity, project management and agile management tools that you may come across. GitHub actually has some quite good project and agile task management functionality within it. So if you are sat within a small software development team, maybe you just want to use a straightforward Kanban approach and you don't need the complexity of Scrum meetings, then you may want to consider GitHub as a possible solution. Productivity tools like Monday.com, which also have CRM solutions, task management, HR recruitment, you name it, they probably do it for a subscription-based fee. So that's another one to check out. However, if you are managing a software team, I would thoroughly recommend that you look for solutions that integrate with something like Jira. Another one, Sprints from Zoho, which is very similar to Monday.com, but has a slightly different pricing structure. So that's another one you can maybe check out. Others you can find in the course resources. It's really just up to you to sort of sit down, look through the documentation and bother to try and learn how some of these solutions work. I may create some short courses as a basic introduction for anyone who might be interested. So that, in summary, is the Agile Scrum methodology. So if you are looking at further learning, if you are looking at certification, I have added in a load of links and resources for you to check out. If you have the opportunity to take formal Scrum training and certified Scrum training through your employer, I thoroughly recommend you to do that. If you've decided that going through this course was enough and you'd like to try out some past test papers, I have identified some examples and you can find the links to those in the course resources. If you want to find me on Twitter and follow me, or contact me via LinkedIn, the links are below. If this is the beginning of your Agile journey, I'd like to say thanks for taking this course and wishing you good luck.